channel. So I'm just out here at Lake Wivenhoe at Hayes Landing, and I thought I'd just do the review of the bike now. I hope it's not too much in the shade. I'll go on the other side actually, it's a bit on the other side. See if it comes up better. Yeah, so to put it with my shadow. So I'm just going to do a sort of a comparison. I've got some notes I've made here to compare the KLR and the Himalayan. Probably not so much justification for buying Himalayan or KLR later on because of the Himalayan, but really just to give you a bit of a heads up, really. So first of all, both bikes have 21-inch front wheels and 17-inch rear wheels. They're both spoked, as you can see there, and they're both tubed. Okay. The ABS on the KLR is not switchable. The ABS on the Himalayan is switchable, but saying that, I've never had to switch that off either way. So I don't trunk it down again. So it's a rear wheel. So the ABS that I say on the KLR is not switchable, but on the Himalayan is. So the braking is better on this KLR than the Himalayan. I went back on the Himalayan on Friday. New Year's Eve, and took it for a little ride, and it was definitely softer than this one. Right, so screen. So the screen on the KLR, two positions, high and low. You can probably just see in there the brackets for high and low. It's currently on the high position, and it's still not buffeting, but I'm getting a lot of wind noise. It's making doing the audio for these videos very hard. So I've actually ordered the screen risers from 3D Cycle Parts. I'll do an accessory review another day, actually. On the Himalayan, it doesn't matter what angle I put the Himalayan at, the forward or backward position, even with the additional screen protector on the top of it. So I've got the additional sort of screen protector on the top there. It's buffeting. I get these micro buffets at my helmet, and it doesn't matter what position you got it on, whether I've got the extension on or not. It's just constantly there, and I haven't managed to get rid of that. So that's definitely been an issue for me. 5'8" I am in height. Fairing. So I might as well do the fairing around the bike here. So obviously the KLR has got quite a lot of fairing protection, and it does actually give you fairly good wind protection. If anything, it's too good in hot climates like this one. I live in Queensland, Australia, and it's pretty fierce through this side here. So that's where the radiator is. Okay, and if you look where it vents, it's just here. So it literally, the air is directed right onto your leg. There's no doubt about that. It's definitely directed onto your leg. So it does get pretty hot. Saying that, the Himalayan's got a similar issue with the exhaust pipe. All right, so I mean, the benefits are that this one is water cooled. Okay, so the other day I got stuck in a bit of traffic, unexpected. The fan came in, kicked in, and was helping obviously to keep the engine cool. So on the Himalayan, it wouldn't have done that. It just got progressively got hotter, and I would have had to probably turn the engine off at some point and pull over. So definitely benefits to having a water-cooled, fan-assisted water-cooled bike. That's what you want to call it. I don't quite know the technical words for all this, but these are just things I'm noting. With the Himalayan, you get the racks. Okay, so you get the racks down. So I'm getting bugged by flies here. You get the racks down the side here. And I managed to put the Krieger 12-litre bag straight on those. Obviously on the KLR, there's no, you get this light bar, but there's no front pannier racks. So I'm having to buy those. I'll do an accessory review another day, like I say, when they all come in. It's going to take weeks to get them all because of COVID still. You do get crash bars though on the KLR Adventure bike version of it. Now those are okay. I am replacing them. You don't get these obviously on the Himalayan. I had to put the Geevy ones on mine, which are quite expensive. The plastic skid plate is going. on the KLR. Okay, so that will have to go. This plastic skid plate down here. So what I'm actually doing is getting the Happy Trails whole setup. I'm getting the engine bar protectors, the skid plate, and the front pannier wrap bars as well that come up the side here and protect all this fairing. But you can also, I should be able to reattach the Kriegers to those and get my old setup back. I mean, I had the setup for the Himalayan actually quite well tuned, so it's a shame that I'm not taking it. Kind of about it, you know. It's probably a good move actually, because I do like having the extra power that this bike has got well over the Himalayan. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so the other issue, which I can't show you, but the sump plug, I don't know if that will come out or not, but the sump plug on the KLR comes down quite a lot below the bash plate, and it's a common problem that gets caught on stones potentially. So I said the Happy Trails bash plate goes further back. I've also got on order a low profile sump plug, so between the two I should get rid of that known issue. All right, so electrics. Himalayan had to install both a USB socket and a cigar lighter. Actually, the cigar lighter's by design. Socket. Obviously, the KLR 650 Adventure comes with both of those as standard. The position of them is not ideal. As you can see, I can't turn it. I've got too many things piled on electronics to find it piled on it. But as you can see, they're both very close, to the original fittings, and now even closer to the bark busters which I've installed on here. Okay, so it's nice that they put the extra sockets on there, and it's also nice that apparently the alternator, I don't know what output it is, but I think you get about, is it 60 watt of available power? 60 to 80s, I think it is on this one, on the Adventure version, the KLR 650 Adventure 22 Gen 3 model. So it's nice to have done that, because I will be able to keep things hopefully more charged on the road. That's one of my biggest issues when you're travelling, trying to do any of this vlogging. Handguards, Himalayan came with none. The KLR came with those basic ones. You can see the old bolt stuck up there. I did manage to take the bark busters plastic, obviously, from the old Himalayan ones, and I just had to buy a new bracket. There is a very specific KLR model here because of the proximity to these when you turn the handlebars. Okay. Mirrors, stock ones on the KLR are actually not bad. Obviously I've transferred my double takes off the Himalayan. The stock ones on the Himalayan are dreadful. So I mean, you know, you could quite easily live with the stock ones on the KLR and not have to bother putting the mirrors on there. Alright, let's go on the other side. So, foot pegs on both bikes, stock ones are dire. Okay, I've got the pivot pegs on. Now I'm going to talk about that in a minute, because that I would say is the biggest downside of this KLR, and the Himalaya's got a far better position on the bike. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute in more detail. But yeah, everybody says about the Himalayans and the KLR ones. I put pivot pegs on. They're quite expensive. They are wider and they are longer out. Okay. Now again, that's really important on the KLR, just as it is on the Himalayan. I'll talk about that very shortly. I have had the bike lowered, so you can just see in there the Koublalink lowering kit, which takes it down about 2 inches. Now the original seat height of the KLR is 870, I believe, and the original seat height of the Himalayan is 800. Okay, so I've had it lowered. Probably regret that later on, but I definitely need that comfort factor. Now I haven't put on a new side stand though, so this is now just like the Himalayan is a stock. The Himalayan is stock. with the original side stand will fall over. It's teetering on the brink of being almost vertical. So if you go on any camber that's adverse, the bike just, you got to move the bike, you just can't stand it. I've now got that same problem with this one. Obviously, because I've had the bike lowered, the side stand now is too long. And I've got the same problem on this one. It's actually not quite as bad as the Himalayan, but not far off when you're fully loaded. It just teeters and wants to almost tip. So I've got a replacement adjustable one on order. So that will get fixed, and that's, like I say, something I've induced, nothing to do with the original spec of the bike. Okay, so battery. So this has got a large battery. It's also more accessible. With the Himalayan, you have to take the seat off every time to get access to the battery. And believe me, on the Himalayan you have to do that quite a few times because the gear shifter indicator, I don't know whether the word fail is the right word, it just doesn't work. And the only way to reset that gear shift indicator on the Himalayan is to take the seat off and take the battery off for about 30 seconds and reconnect it. So, which means you then go to set the clock and everything as well. I don't have any other issues on the KLR obviously, but the KLR battery is just behind this panel here. I just put a battery tender, you can just see in there. And the terminals on the battery now are both facing you, so I can't wish it's negative and positive, but they're literally just behind here. Okay, you don't need to take the seat off, and they're both accessible. They're not, the battery's not that way, it's actually this way, so both the terminals are quite accessible. That's a benefit, and the other thing is, because you've got all this fairing, you can hide the wires. So as you can see, I've already put the GPS on here, and hiding the wires, I just need an actual tyre up on that, but hiding the wires was a lot easier on this KLR than it was on the Himalayan. Okay, rear pannier racks. So with the Adventure model of the KLR 650 Adventure, you do get these plastic, I don't know what sort of plastic, ABS type panniers. They are a really odd shape. Okay, they're kind of a really odd shape, and the shape that way, and then they get marked up. These are quite marked already, and I've just been using it for, I've done one camping trip on it, but just basic day rides. So I've got the Happy Trails pannier racks coming, and I'll be able to put my original round the world panniers on from that I had on the Himalayan, I had on the BMW GSA before that as well. So those round the world panniers have actually done really well. They've been on 3 bikes now over, what, 4 or 5 years. So they've done 4 years. So those round the world panniers, those giant loop ones have done pretty good. So that's a mod again that's going to come. I mean, a standard day in use, to get you straight on the road. Nothing wrong with them. Okay, they're quite sturdy. The limited capacity, you probably get 18-20 litres out of them tops, and they are a funny shape, but they do mark. You see there's just like little marks all over them already, so they do get pretty scratched up. Top plate, I didn't have to replace this on the KLR, I did on the Himalayan. This is standard, is fine. I did bring over the Givi top plate that fits to the rear rack on the KLR, and that was just a matter of drilling some holes in here, some extra holes. I've actually got 6 instead of the standard 4 bolts on this holding it on. Okay, so the top Givi top box and the plate just came straight off the Himalayan. I did deliberately set it back. I've got a little bit of an overhang here, which has actually turned out quite well. This is still quite sturdy, it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so it does give me access to this little tool box in here, this little tool tray. The other thing is it gives me that much more position between when the rear bag's on here. It gives me a bit more space to push the bag, back away from my back. So that's a benefit over the Himalayan. I've ended up with a bit more space. Water cooled, talked about that. Engine capacity then, so obviously this is a 650. The engine's a 650, still a single cylinder 650. Okay, generating, it's actually 652 I think it is when I looked it up, and it generates 37 brake horsepower. Okay, so KLR generates 37 brake horsepower. The 411 cc of the Himalayan generates 24 brake horsepower, I think it is. There's a massive difference, absolute massive. Okay, so I've always said the Himalayan is underpowered right from day one, and I was willing and prepared to put up with that. But this one's a massive difference. I don't really feel unencumbered by riding this now. I don't have to worry about not having that power for a situation that I'm in, basically, whether it's overtaking or you need to get away around a situation that you've been put in by other drivers. So again, I don't feel lacking power. You just drop it a cog on the gear and it's away. It's fine, absolutely no problems. Cruising speed is a lot higher on the KLR over the Himalayan, for definite. It's a lot happier. It doesn't have a tachograph, so you can't tell the revs on the KLR compared to what the revs are on the Himalayan. I've no idea. It certainly doesn't feel stressed going at a higher speed than the Himalayan. It's got acceleration uphill, which the Himalayan didn't have. So from a power perspective, you really do notice this 650, that little uplift in BHP, but generally, just the general power smoothness as well is definitely better on the KLR by a long shot. So I definitely appreciate that. What else I've got here? I think the last thing I want to talk about that I've got on my list was really the price. Okay, so obviously you're getting a lot more. So I'll just go around the side here. You're getting a lot more bike for your buck. But the downside of that is, look, can I get the light? The light is terrible. I've had to come in the shade because the light is just blisteringly hot today. It's about 30 degrees just after 10 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be 38 degrees. Anyway, sorry, getting sidetracked again. Yeah, the price. In Australia, okay, the Himalayan is now retailing at $8,000 on the road. Okay, so it's a fairly expensive bike in Australia, still is a Himalayan. For a basic bike. The KLR, this one on the road, was $12,000. Okay, so for my extra $4,000, I think I am getting a lot more for my money. Would I have bought this when I bought the Himalayan? I don't know. I really don't know. The reasoning behind buying the Himalayan was that a lot of the countries you're going to around the world, I can only get insurance for third party in the country. The bike is not insured, okay, in a lot of these countries. So if anything happens to the bike, I'm pretty much on my own cost-wise and rebuild and repair, whatever. Hopefully it never happens. But, if you have to abandon the bike, COVID, some people have to abandon bikes in countries. I don't even know if they've got them back. You need to be prepared to write that money off. So, the Himalayan was done on a lot of reasons, not just from a fuel mileage perspective, a cheapness perspective, but, from a repair perspective, if you have to leave it behind perspective, it's not going to be insured per se. Our third party for other people in every country I go to, but not necessarily on my own bike. So again, I don't know whether I would have done that. The riding position on this one, the standing position, we'll talk about very shortly. Okay. But would I have done that? Would I have made that decision? I probably would have landed in the same position, I think. Okay, I would have landed probably on the Himalayan, to tell you the truth. And the big deciding factor would be, okay, and this is a real negative of the KLR 650 that I've found. I haven't really found any sort of other annoying, no bike's ideal. I'm just looking at the bike there. No bike's ideal by a long shot. But it's only shadow that won't get it, will it? The big one to me of the KR 650 Adventure, I don't know if it's probably the same on all the KLRs, the Gen 3 ones, is the standing position is absolutely bloody horrible, to put it politely. Okay, so I've taken, I don't know if you noticed, I've taken the tank bag off today because I wanted to try a theory out. You need, in standing, you need to be over here, Okay, you need to be over, I would say, 60% of the distance over the tank in standing to be able to stand and control the bike and get any control over your feet. Okay, so you cannot have a tank bag on. Okay, I cannot have a tank bag on anyway. Maybe I'm a bit shorter than other people, but there's no way you can have a tank bag on here. Okay, it's a very, very difficult bike to stand on for extended periods of time. Okay, so to me that is a big downer on the KLR 650 that I found. So if I do tracks, well, not when, if, when, whatever, when I'm on a track in America to start off with, or Canada, or heading down South America, I'm pretty much going to have to take the tank bag off and stick it somewhere at the back, out the way. So I'll have to stop, take the tank bag off and move it. There's absolutely no way I can ride this bike with a tank bag on. I do use the tank bag day to day, though I must admit I do miss it today, just a little bits and pieces. You just can't get the angle. You can't get a standing position. It feels like it wants to throw you back all the time. Even with the tank bag off, somebody just pulled up first, so I'd finish off. So even with the tank bag off, it's still not as comfortable as the Himalayan. The Himalayan, I could literally stand up on that bike all day. The KLR can't do that. Anyway, so those are the main things. So any comments, just let me know, stick them in the comments box, and I'll try and, well, we'll not try, but I will get around to answering them. I just realised that I think it was I've only published 1 out of 4 videos last year, so I've just been trying to get things sorted out so I could actually get this round the world trip going. So I'll do better this year, honest. So hopefully more of a consistent storyline, but there we go. These are my first less than 2,000 kilometre observations between the KLR and the Himalayan. Enjoy.